Live NFL trivia every Tuesday night on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come show off your football knowledge and have a chance to win cash prizes. Check the link in the description to find out more. And now, on with our feature presentation. The Atlanta Falcons have been on the losing end of their fair share of improbable comebacks. You have the duel in Dixie, where in the 1980 divisional round, the Falcons led 27-17 midway through the fourth quarter against the Cowboys, and somehow lost. You had Super Bowl 51, where the Falcons led 28-3 in the second half against the Patriots, and somehow lost. You had what seems like every single game for the 2020 season where the Falcons had a big fourth quarter lead, and somehow lost. Safe to say, luck has not been on Atlanta's side with comebacks. But during one game, they were not only on the opposite side of the comeback, but they did it in improbable fashion. An offense that was completely dormant all game came to life in record-breaking fashion. A man who never had an interception in his entire career somehow made a move. A quarterback who was playing terribly and was injured comes back into the game and performs some heroics. It's a comeback that has seemingly been lost in NFL history, and it's a comeback that nobody really talks about today. But it might just be the greatest comeback in the history of the Atlanta Falcons. And this is the story behind that. Before we talk about the comeback, we need to talk about how we got to this point. It's September 13th, 1981, and the Atlanta Falcons are taking on the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field. For both the Falcons and the Packers, they're off to pretty good starts this season. Green Bay won their road opener against the Chicago Bears, and are now returning to Lambeau Field for the first time all season. Meanwhile, the Atlanta Falcons destroyed the New Orleans Saints 27-0. Steve Bartkowski played that game while battling the flu, and he had a field day, throwing for 3 touchdowns, as the defense forced New Orleans to turn it over 4 times. If the Falcons went on the road and beat the Packers, it'd be just the second time in franchise history that they would start a season 2-0. Unfortunately for Atlanta, things did not start off well. On the opening drive of the game, Green Bay scored an absolutely bizarre touchdown, and it's bizarre for 2 reasons. Number 1, it completely fooled the cameraman. It was a good play action, but come on, it wasn't that good. And number 2, how on earth was this a catch? Did Carl Swanky ever have possession of this ball? There is no way whatsoever that this would be ruled a catch in 2020. And it wouldn't get any better when the Falcons went on offense. On the first drive, starting quarterback Steve Bartkowski got injured. Mike Butler drilled him pretty good, and Bartkowski's rib was injured in the process. This meant that Mike Moroski was in at quarterback. He's the same guy that threw one pass the week before against the Saints, and that pass resulted in a pick. The same guy that had never thrown a touchdown pass in his entire career. Yeah, it's not looking good, and it looks even worse when on 4th and goal, Pro Bowl running back William Andrews gets stuffed. On Atlanta's second drive, there's good and bad news. The good news is that Bartkowski is back in there. The bad news is that it's not because he's feeling any better, but rather it's by default. You see, on that drive with Moroski, he had a run to get to the 7-yard line. When he dove, he broke his left collarbone. The Falcons only had 2 quarterbacks active, so it was either play Bartkowski, who had an injured rib, or play the backup quarterback with a broken collarbone. That made the decision pretty easy. But as you can probably expect, Bartkowski was not particularly good. On that drive, every time Bartkowski had to throw more than 5 yards down the field, it was not pretty. He should have been picked off here, and then was picked off a few throws later. And his ribs took a bit more of a beating when on drive number 3, he got sacked on back-to-back plays. Following a great touchdown catch by Jerry Ellis, the Packers were up 14-0. And unfortunately for the Falcons, things were about to get a heck of a lot worse before they got better. When Atlanta got the ball back, Bartkowski threw his second interception of the game. Again, every time he tried to throw down the middle of the field, he was incredibly ineffective and could get nothing going. Fortunately, Atlanta got a break when Maurice Harvey fumbled on the return. But I'll give you one guess as to what happens next. You guessed it, 2 plays later, Bartkowski threw another pick. At halftime, the Packers led 14-0, and following a field goal with 2 minutes left in the third quarter, Green Bay led 17-0. I should note that earlier in the quarter, Bartkowski threw his 4th pick of the day. With 17 minutes left in the game, the Falcons were down by 17 points. Let's break down just how dire this is, because it's not pretty. Ever since Bartkowski injured his rib on the first drive, every Falcons drive either ended in a 3-and-out or an interception. Bartkowski had missed on his last 5 throws, and on 7 of his last 8. Since Bartkowski's injury, he was 7 for 18 with a passer rating of 16.4, including 4 interceptions. For some perspective on how bad that is, if you did nothing but spike the ball into the ground on every single play, your passer rating would be 2.5 times higher than that. Atlanta had won just 1 out of 6 games at Lambeau Field. The last time the Packers lost a game when leading by 17 was on October 25, 1964 against the Los Angeles Rams. When leading by 17 or more after 3 quarters, the Packers had literally never lost a game before. On the flip side, the Falcons had never won a game before when trailing by 17 after 3 quarters. And if the Falcons were going to come back, they would need their offense, which had been shut out all game and had a severely injured quarterback leading the charge, to flip a switch. Somehow, that's exactly what happened. Atlanta was able to cut it to a 2-possession game on a 32-yard field goal by Mick Luckhurst, but they were still down by 14 with 12 minutes to go. The good news was that Atlanta was able to force a 3-and-out, setting up a punt. And on the punt return, Reggie Smith took it 52 yards and got Atlanta deep in the red zone. Smith averaged just 2 yards per return the previous week against the Saints, but he turned on the Jets here. On the very first play, William Andrews punched it in to make it a 17-10 game. Just like that, Atlanta had somehow made this a contest. And following another 3-and-out, the Falcons had a chance to tie this up. Somehow, Bartkowski, who'd been throwing duck after duck all day, found his form, hitting Alfred Jenkins on back-to-back throws. The first of these throws set the Falcons up in Green Bay territory, while the second one was a dime into the end zone to tie the game. The Lambeau Field crowd was rightfully stunned. What happens next is absolutely bizarre, because on the very next play from scrimmage, Lynn Cain threw a pick 6 to Fulton Kuykendall. For the first time all game, Atlanta had the lead. What was especially bizarre about this, though, is that this was the first interception of Kuykendall's career. I'm not just talking about the NFL. He was drafted by the Falcons in 1975 and never had a pick. He played 4 years of college ball at UCLA and never had a pick. And he played 4 years of high school ball in California at St. Patrick's St. Vincent and never had an interception. Somehow, the man's first ever pick was at Lambeau Field to highlight this incredible, historic comeback. As Kuykendall said after the game, it was a long time coming, and I'll never forget it. With the Packers trying one last drive, Joel Williams was able to return a fumble 57 yards to the house for the dagger. This was a homecoming game of sorts for Williams, as he played some of his college ball in the state, and man did he cap it off with a bang. When all was said and done, the Falcons won 31-17, scoring all 31 points in the final quarter. But as crazy as this game was, I'm not sure that statement appropriately captures the moment. It gets even crazier when you break it down a bit deeper. For some perspective on how insane this comeback was, in the history of the NFL at the time, no team had ever managed to score 31 points in the fourth quarter of a game, although it happened twice in the AFL. The Falcons set the record for most points scored in the fourth quarter of a game, and they did it after being shut out for the first 3 quarters, and after having a quarterback that was only in there because the other guy was more hurt than he was. Today, the record is 34 points, held by the Detroit Lions in a 2007 game against the Chicago Bears. Of all the teams to set the record, considering the circumstances, the 1981 Falcons seem like the least likely. Head coach Lehman Bennett said it best. When the team fell behind 17-0, he told the guys that they were just 3 plays behind. All they needed was 3 plays to score. And while he was proud of his team for obvious reasons, even he was stunned by what happened. As he said, "I don't think I've ever seen the defense score that many points that quick." The Falcons would stumble that season, finishing 7-9 following an incredible 3-0 start. But even though the season turned out to be fairly mediocre and forgettable, this comeback should not be forgotten. To score an NFL record 31 points in the fourth quarter, after getting shut out in the first 3 quarters with all hope looking lost, well, that has to be the greatest comeback in Falcons history. Be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, and subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out Twitch every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at JarGator9 and subscribe to 60-Second NFL History on YouTube. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See what you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.